I mean, Jesus, you guys suck. Welcome to Ranger Reviews, a web series we look at episodes of the TV show Power Rangers and then discuss them. Today we're exploring the 28th episode of the show Power Rangers Zeo, as well as the 183rd episode overall, titled A Small Problem. We begin this episode at the youth center where Tommy and Kat are looking at a terrarium, and they say that they want to put in some more plants and whatnot. Apparently it's for an ecosystem project, and they're going out to the desert with our friendly neighborhood computer genius Raymond, and Kat suggests that they get a spider or like a lizard or something to put in there. They also have to reiterate that they'll eventually release it back into the wild afterward. Tanya also comes in with some paints because she's going to paint the backdrop for the terrarium. Raymond and Tommy then lift the cage and they start to leave, and Tanya tells Kat to be careful, and Kat stupidly says, "What could go wrong in the desert?" Out in the desert, Sprocket is showcasing a new device that will make things larger than Orbis can, and he uses it and it actually shrinks a boulder instead. In the youth center, Bulk and Skull were hired to go through some dead guy's diary and go through his old mine to find a gold vein. Ernie is clearly distressed by this. Tommy, Kat, and Raymond arrive out in the desert, and apparently Tommy has gotten a new car since the last time we saw him. They get the terrarium out, setting it down on the ground. Raymond gives Kat a bucket to collect plants with, while Tommy will actually have a jar to go get a spider like a lizard, and he's going to look at the old mine that they passed. Tommy and Kat then chase around the lizard unsuccessfully, which is like really lame sequence here, and Mondo and Sprocket see them below them. Tommy and Kat go back by the car and Sprocket fires a laser at them, shrinking Tommy's car. Then the cogs show up, surrounding Kat and Tommy. It's morphin' time! Red and Pink fight off the cogs, but then they hold Kat back as well as Tommy, and Sprocket uses his shrinking ray on Kat first, and then Tommy, making them like super tiny. Sprocket then asks if he can keep them, and he picks them up, putting them into the terrarium. Sprocket is gonna go collecting more pets for his collection. At the youth center, Raymond walks in and he's super pissed because Tommy and Kat ditched him out in the desert. He apparently had to walk back. Tanya then says that she's gonna call Tommy's house and she uses her communicator, but she doesn't get a response. She then talks to Zoran, who says that he'll have Adam and Rocky meet up with her. The three show up at the old Murphy mine, finding Tommy's miniaturized car. Sprocket then leaves Tommy and Kat alone, and Tommy says that their communicators don't have enough power now to get to Zordon, I guess, because they're tiny. Kat sees a hole in the wire mesh in the ceiling, and they decide to go for it. Billy is looking at the tiny truck, and he says it's definitely Tommy's, and that they assume that they just got shrunken too, but they can't find them because their homing signals would be diminished. Then Sprocket comes back, putting a big freaking tarantula into the terrarium, and Tommy looks like he's about to spinning fly kick the crap out of this spider. Tommy has an idea though. He decides to create a miniature avalanche inside the terrarium, which builds a perfect wall between the two Rangers and the spider. Then Sprocket hears Bulk and Skull and he goes to find out what they're doing. Bulk and Skull walk into the abandoned mine looking around, and they believe that they found the mother lode of all gold in the wall. Bulk starts chipping away at it and they're freaking out, thinking that they're going to be rich. Sprocket then shows up and the two scream and run away. Meanwhile, that spider is going over the barricade that they built, and they don't really know how they're going to get out of this one. Outside of the mine, Bulk is yelling for Skull, and he runs into the Gold Ranger, yelling and running away. Then the Gold Ranger comes up, getting Red and Pink out of the terrarium. Sprocket shows up and he tells him to shove it. Then cogs show up around him, and the Gold Ranger puts them down on the ground as he fights off the cogs that are actually just completely surrounding him. Tommy, Rocky, and Adam see what's going on walking up. It's morphin' time. The four of them defeat all the cogs, and the Gold Ranger says it looks like they have everything under control, and he leaves. Then Sprocket leaves. The others find Tommy and Kat, and they say that they'll have to take them back to the power chamber for help. Also, Tanya is wondering who the Gold Ranger is, and how he always knows when they need help. Really good question, Tanya. Wish you were going to get an actual answer. In space, we're introduced to the Transhubot for Sprocket. Then in the power chamber, everyone is looking at Tommy and Kat, and Billy says that basically they're shrunk because the space between the molecules of the object have been removed. He has a solution and it works on Tommy's truck. The alarms then start to go off as they realize that the monster is attacking. Billy then uses the molecular re-spacer on Tommy and Kat, bringing them back to normal size. Imagine they're like a couple inches too tall now. Whatever, back to action. The five Rangers take on the Transhubot, and he puts spider things on Blue and Pink's face. But before we can get too invested in that, the Gold Ranger shows up, hitting the monster, which releases the things on Blue's and Pink's face, I guess. The Rangers then call it the Zeo cannon, which I forgot about, firing at the Transhubot, blowing him up. Clank and Orbis come into the scene, making him grow giant. The Rangers call it their Zeozords, forming the Zeo Megazord. They then get caught into a net immediately, and Tommy calls out the red Zeo Battlezord, getting in, but then he's in a damn net too. The Gold Ranger calls out Pyramidas, using it to dissolve the nets from the other Zords. He then says that he's transferring data to them so that they can actually combine together to create the Zeo Ultra Zord. There's even a designated space for each of them inside his own Zord. They don't even consider how this could definitely like be a trap or anything, and then all of a sudden freaking Pyramidas stands up as the other Zords just go into its back, while the red Battlezord just holds its arms over its shoulders. They fire at the Transhubot, blowing him up. In the desert, Bulk is struggling to find water, and he's also looking for Skull, who he finds briefly in between blurry flashes of the Gold Ranger. Now, that'd be an interesting storyline. Skull is a Power Ranger? Oh well. Skull comes up to Bulk, telling him he had to go out and get some fresh air. Then in the youth center, Tanya, Kat, and Tommy are looking at the terrarium, and Raymond walks up, pissed off, and then they make up with him pretty quickly, lying about how they were driving around the desert lost for hours looking for him. Then Raymond says it's fine, and he shows him that he has the perfect thing for the project. A tarantula. The end. Over the credits, we actually have a nice cutscene of Bulk and Skull, who apparently dug fool's gold out instead of real gold, according to Stone. Yep. This episode is one of those that I vividly remember from my childhood because it was one of the only Zeo episodes I had recorded on a VHS. I think the idea is a good one for the story, and honestly, the special effects that they did are actually pretty damn good for 1996. I mean, there's a lot of clipping masks being used in this episode, and you can barely tell. Overall, it does a pretty nice job visually. Otherwise, we're clearly setting up that literally anyone here could be the Gold Ranger. I mean, at this point, it could be Billy, Skull, Raymond, maybe even Sean. So will we find out who it truly is next time? Nope, but it's another strange episode, so get ready for that. But until then, may the power protect you.